Welcome to the 24th Annual Iowa Women's Foundation Luncheon. I'm Shelley Lehman, and I'm thrilled to kick off today's celebration with you. Before we begin, I'd like us all to take a moment to acknowledge yet another tragic loss in 2020. Just 3 weeks ago today, we said goodbye to an American hero whose legacy will forever impact women across the country. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a pioneer of women's rights and a lifelong champion of gender equality. Today, as we celebrate the power of women, let us remember this larger-than-life woman who used her power to reshape American law and amplify the voice of women everywhere. And let us not forget that even though she is gone, during her lifetime, she empowered millions more women and girls to reach brave new heights. There may never be another Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but thanks to her tireless work, there won't be any shortage of bright, talented, and passionate women to fill the enormous shoes she left behind. And now, let's start the program. First, I'd like to thank everyone in our audience, not just for tuning into the luncheon, but for continuing to support our mission even as your own lives have been disrupted this year. Despite what 2020 has thrown at you, you're here today because you share our belief that when we work together, women have the power to change our lives and our communities, no matter what obstacles stand in our way. 100 years ago, the hard work and tireless efforts of countless women led to the ratification of the 19th Amendment. These women weren't simply given the vote by a few men who woke up one day and decided things should be different. Make no mistake, they fought for their right in every sense of the word. They used their collective power to stand and be counted, and they persisted until their voices could no longer be silenced. At no point was their battle easy. Suffragists who took their message to the streets faced public ridicule, intimidation, and physical violence. Some were beaten, others went to jail. At home, they received hate mail and occasionally bricks through their front windows. At every turn, those who opposed women's suffrage made themselves known however they could. They attempted to deny these women their humanity, calling them reckless and hysterical. But today, we know them only as powerful women. We look to the stories of Iowa women like Carrie Chapman Catt with awe and reverence, and we channel their passion to continue to fight for what is right and just today. Before the 19th Amendment was ratified, women may have lacked the power to vote, but they understood that there was power in perseverance and power in working together. This is how they won the vote, and this is what we're here to celebrate today. Throughout the luncheon, you'll hear stories from 5 women who embody what it means to not only have power, but to share it with others. And as we present our 2021 grantee partners, you'll learn about 13 organizations using their power to remove the barriers to success for women and girls across Iowa. Now, before I turn things over to our 2020 Grants Committee Chair, Lori Lane, I want to talk a little more about our organization. As a women's foundation, we're sometimes asked what we do. After all, we are not a direct service provider. We don't operate a shelter or provide counseling services. Instead, we harness the collective power of Iowa's most passionate, effective, and game-changing leaders to break down the barriers to economic self-sufficiency. We do this through grant making. Since our founding, we've given more than $1 million to locally run nonprofits that work directly with women and girls. We do this through advocacy and education, backed by solid research and face-to-face conversations with women from all of Iowa's 99 counties. We do this through collaboration, through initiatives like Building Community Childcare Solutions. We've empowered more than 600 volunteers across the state to work together to deploy innovative tactics that make childcare more affordable and accessible in their own communities. because there's power in our shared commitment to building a better Iowa. Grant making is at the heart of what the Iowa Women's Foundation does, but you are the heart of our grant making efforts. By attending the luncheon today, you champion the Iowa Women's Foundation to continue life-changing programs. And you empower us to build a better Iowa, not just for women and girls, but for everyone in our communities. So please, sit back, enjoy the rest of the program, and I will turn it over to our Grants Committee Chair, Lori Lane.
Thank you, Shelley. It's been my privilege to chair the Grants Committee this year. Throughout IWF's history, we have awarded grants to a wide variety of programs benefiting thousands of women and girls in all 99 Iowa counties. Over $1 million total to improve the lives of Iowa women and girls. As Shelley noted, grant making is at the heart of what we do. And with your support, we have been able to more than double our grant making in the past 8 years. Lois James and Jeremy James of James Investment Group in Iowa City have been the luncheon match sponsor since 2014. We are incredibly grateful for their support. With your donations today, we can meet this match together and continue to support more programs and more opportunities for women and girls throughout Iowa. This summer, over 50 community review panelists from across the state came together to review, discuss, and make recommendations based on applications submitted from 43 organizations, all very deserving of support. Each application for a core grant is required to address one of the 6 barriers to women's economic self-sufficiency that IWF is working to shatter: employment, childcare, housing, education training, transportation, and mentorship. Through lively discussion and earnest investigation, their input directed our ultimate award decisions. I am excited to announce that the Iowa Women's Foundation is awarding $100,000 to 13 programs located throughout Iowa for 2021. These programs represent all 6 barriers and stretch across the state from Dubuque to Council Bluffs, Sioux City to Davenport, Waterloo, and Des Moines. This year, IWF's reach will include programs benefiting middle school girls as they learn about health, fitness, and self-esteem, a unique apprenticeship program enabling more women to learn a trade and earn above a survivable wage level, refugee women providing culturally sensitive childcare in communities where appropriate alternatives are scarce, teenage parents assisted in their quest to finish high school while their infants are cared for in a nearby safe and stimulating environment, a pilot program to provide farm sitters for women farmers so they may attend agricultural education conferences, and a unique program providing safe transportation for women and their children to travel to and from work and childcare during second and third shift hours. These are just a few of the 13 grants we are announcing today. Our grant recipients are working to shatter all 6 barriers identified through research and collaboration. IWF and these recipient agencies together strive to improve the lives of all Iowa women and girls. Our 2021 grant recipients are Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Iowa, based in Des Moines, Boys and Girls Club of the Midlands, headquartered in Omaha and serving Council Bluffs, Catherine McCauley Center, Cedar Rapids, with support from the Helen Fry Memorial Fund, Crittenden Center, Sioux City, Grin and Grow Childcare, Waterloo, Hawkeye Community College Foundation, Waterloo, Horizons, a Family Service Alliance, Cedar Rapids, Lead Her, based in Davenport and serving the Quad Cities, Lutheran Services of Iowa, based in Des Moines and serving Polk County with technical assistance to other counties as needed, St. Mark Youth Enrichment, Dubuque, United Way of the Quad Cities, based in Bettendorf, University of Iowa Labor Center, Iowa City, and Women Food and Agriculture Network, based in Ames and serving the entire state. Each of these programs provides the power for women and girls to be confident, strong, and accomplished through a widely varied range of opportunities. Your financial support makes these grants and these vital programs possible. As we say, when women are successful, their children thrive, their communities grow, and Iowa wins. Again, thank you to the community review panelists and the Grants Committee for their time and dedication. And a special thank you to our Circles of Giving donors and our match sponsor, Lois James and Jeremy James of James Investment Group. Your ongoing support provides the necessary resources to financially assist these terrific programs and further improve the lives of Iowa women and girls, one grant at a time. Thank you for your wisdom and your partnership.
While you may not be running an architectural firm, tending hives of honeybees, and mentoring a teenager, your life is just as unique. A Raymond James financial advisor gets to know you, your passions, and the way you help others, so you can live your life. That's life well planned.
Hello, I am Dawn Oliver Wyand, and it is my honor and pleasure to serve as IWF's Executive Director. Before we continue, I'd like to thank the sponsors who made today's event possible: UFG Insurance, Cedar Rapids Bank and Trust, Frontier Co-op, Great Western Bank, Midwest One Bank, and James Investment Group. Thank you for using your power to inspire our attendees and for enabling our organization to be a powerful voice for all of Iowa's women and girls. Power. You've heard us use that word a lot today, but what does it mean exactly? And what can we do to ensure that Iowa's women and girls have power, not just over their personal lives, but in their professions and in their communities as well? Power is the means to take action, the ability to accomplish, change, or influence. While it's often associated with control, real power expands an individual's freedom. Real power doesn't overlook the many to benefit the few. It harnesses the collective energy of the world around us for the benefit of all. Because real power doesn't shrink or contract, it spreads. This is the mission of IWF, to spread power, to give a voice to the silenced, and to create a future where every woman and girl has the right to pursue a life that's fulfilling, rewarding, and sustainable. Just like a bottle of good wine or a box of Oreos, power is so much better when it's shared with the people around you. But where does power come from, and how can we spread it? For this answer, I turn to our speakers. Through their stories, we'll hear how perseverance, opportunity, wisdom, efficacy, and resiliency became the source of power for 5 of Iowa's most passionate and dedicated women. And we'll learn what we can do every day of our lives to feel more powerful, to be more powerful, and to use our power to build a better Iowa. We'll learn how Jessica Richardson, an immigrant from the Dominican Republic, persevered to escape domestic violence and create a better life for her family, and how Jennifer Shearer and the University of Iowa Labor Center are expanding opportunities to empower women in the skilled trades. We'll hear how Akwi NG puts her wisdom to words to inspire others, and how Liz Lentz uses effective storytelling to expose the barriers keeping women from attaining power. And finally, we'll have the honor of hearing from Justice Dana Oxley of the Iowa Supreme Court, who proves that resiliency and pushing through life's toughest moments can be a source of power in itself. So, without further ado, I am pleased to present Jessica Richardson, Jennifer Shearer, Akwi NG, Liz Lentz, and Justice Dana Oxley.
Hi, I'm Jenny Olson with Midwest One Bank. I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, Jessica Richardson. Jessica is a single mom of 3 born on St. Martin Island. She came to the U.S. from the Dominican Republic in 2012. Please help me welcome our next speaker, Jessica Richardson.
Hello, my name is Jessica Richardson. I'm from Dominican Republic. I'm 32 years old, and I have 3 children. I came here with my baby dad. He was very controlling. He was controlling of everything, who I talk to. So I can even call my family because like he has to know everything, what I was doing and what I do with the money, what I spend it for and everything. So it was very controlling. So just something just got in my head like the same day. And I said like, I don't think I can take anymore, and I decided to leave. Like I didn't have a place to go, so I didn't know where I'm gonna spend the night with my 3 children that day. And the first thing that got in my head like to go to the police station. So in there I went with my children and explained them like if they can help me to find a place to go, and because I didn't want to go back to my house, so I said to him like, I cannot go back today, so I need to find a place. So and they helped me, the officer helped me, and they found a place in Waverly. And someone told me like, oh, someone come and stop there and you could just get in the car. And yeah, that was a very sad moment for me. Like I was feeling very empty, so then he take my kid from me and something. Then like it was like 3 or 4 years, like I have to fight very hard to get my kids. I lost everything, then I was in the street again, and until someone told me about House of Hope. And there, like, everything changed. Like, I was having anything. When I got there, I was with my empty hand, only my daughter and me. So I don't have any identification. It was very hard for me. I didn't have no car, I didn't have to drive. My English was like very bad. Because my first language is Spanish, so it was very hard for me. They called me. I said, oh, Jessica, just calling you to let you know like you cannot come to work today because of your document. So I was like shocked, like, oh my God. I have my 3 kids living with me. They go into school, they're doing very good. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Melissa Schooley with Great Western Bank, proud sponsor of the Iowa Women's Foundation. It is my honor to introduce Jennifer Shearer, PhD, Director of the University of Iowa Labor Center. She has 2 decades of experience teaching and coordinating research on workplace rights, labor history, union leadership, and labor policy subjects, with a special interest in leadership development programming for working women. She is currently working to launch a statewide network of Iowa women in the trades and co-coordinated the 2019 Midwest School for Women Workers. She also directs the Iowa Labor History Oral Project and has served on the boards of the UI Center for Human Rights, the Iowa Policy Project, now Common Good Iowa, the Labor Studies Journal, and as a volunteer for the Center for Worker Justice of Eastern Iowa. She believes strongly in the power of popular education to transform people's lives. Please help me in welcoming Jennifer.
Thanks for that introduction. We are so excited to embark on another year of partnership with the Iowa Women's Foundation in opening up new opportunities for Iowa women through the Iowa Women in Trades Network. Registered apprenticeship training in a skilled trade is by design a pathway to incredible opportunity. Getting into a registered apprenticeship program in a high-demand skilled construction trade means access to, for one thing, a 3 to 5 year program of intense training that combines classroom instruction with on-the-job hands-on learning and mentorship from skilled craftspeople, and the chance to earn while learning It means access to collectively bargained wages, health insurance, and pension benefits that start on day one of training, and scheduled increases in wages as you progress through the program. And it ensures that you have no accumulated student debt when you're finished. And it means access to wage transparency that guarantees equal pay for equal work and eliminates gender or race-based wage gaps that can occur in a lot of other occupations. Completing an apprenticeship in a skilled trade means having a journeyman's card in your hand for the rest of your life. It's a portable credential that's recognized across North America and means a lifelong living wage career that can lead to a host of related opportunities in the construction industry. But historically, this opportunity has not been available to everyone. Those cards apprentices earn at the end of their training are known as journeymen's cards for a reason. Historians have documented how racism, sexism, and a culture of rigidly enforced gender norms have shaped a long history of active exclusion in the industry. In the past, in some skilled trades, only what's informally known as the BUDS system, access to brothers, uncles, or dads already in the trade, could ensure the social capital and access to insider knowledge necessary to get in on the opportunities that high-quality apprenticeship training has to offer. In 2019, women made up over 9% of recent military veterans, 23.6% of members of Congress in our country, and for the first time, over 50% of medical doctors and U.S. law school graduates. Yet the percentage of women in frontline skilled trades construction careers, it has not increased since 1978. So across the country today, less than 7% of apprentices are women, only 3% of skilled trades workers on construction job sites are women. The percentage is even lower in states like Iowa. So this year, we launched the Iowa Women in Trades Network to start changing those numbers and changing that reality. Through initial outreach events, multi-generational leadership development workshops, and now during COVID times, monthly Zoom meetings, experienced tradeswomen are coming together with women who are curious about apprenticeship as a pathway to opportunity, and with those who've started an apprenticeship and are seeking advice on how to succeed in their training programs and beyond. We tell women that this network is for you if you're already a tradeswoman at any level of experience, or if you're just curious about a career in the trades and want to hear from other women who've already been there, or if you're ready to connect with others and be part of building new opportunities for women. We knew we needed a network like this when we started actively recruiting women to our University of Iowa Labor Center Quality Pre-Apprenticeship Program. In close partnership with the Iowa State Building and Construction Trades Council and Iowa Workforce Development, this program prepares and supports people from underrepresented groups in applying to and completing apprenticeship training. In contrast to the less than 1% of construction trades apprentices in Iowa who are currently women, this year, women made up over 15% of our pre-apprentice course graduates. They've completed our 64-hour course to prepare for a successful application to apprenticeship, and now through the Women in Trades Network, they can count on support in getting through the next set of hoops necessary to starting off on a skilled trades career. The best way to convey what this pathway to opportunity means to women is to share some of what they say in their own words. A third-year laborer's apprentice told me this year, quote, "It saved my life. I can support my kids without depending on anyone." All of the women described deep pride in their work, like one who said, "I get to see exactly what I've accomplished each day." Many women in our program are deciding to pursue a skilled trade as a second or even third career after raising children or getting by for years doing physically demanding but low-paid work in restaurants, hair salons, or retail or other settings. Some already have college degrees, like one who started out in finance and said she decided an electrical apprenticeship was actually the career change she needed when she realized, quote, "I was too young to hate my job." What's also clear from women's experiences is that opening up new opportunities also means opening other cans of worms. Recruiting and preparing women to enroll in apprenticeship doesn't mean existing barriers to opportunity disappear overnight. Along with pride and determination, I've heard Iowa tradeswomen talk about being denied job placements, being last hired and first fired on quick turnaround jobs, facing overt sexual harassment on some job sites, or being cut out of access to information or additional training that would have helped them build their skills. One statement that rattled me perhaps the most this year was from an experienced journey-level electrician who said, quote, "I'm not ready to encourage my daughter to go into this field, knowing the kinds of conditions she could face." When tradeswomen who are proud of the opportunities they've pursued aren't yet ready to consider those opportunities worthy of their own daughters, we should all listen up. Our work is just getting started. Connecting a determined, persistent few with a limited number of opportunities is a big first step, but it's definitely not enough. Even the baseline goal of having equal opportunity spelled out under the law we are all learning is not enough. Transforming cultural conditions and upending rigid, toxic gender norms that limit and harm people of all genders in our workplaces is a longer haul proposition, but it's also the only path to liberation for all our daughters and our sons. This is akin to what the recently departed Ruth Bader Ginsburg called, quote, that notion that we should each be free to develop our own talents, whatever they may be, and not be held back by artificial barriers, man-made barriers, certainly not heaven sent. If we all keep at it, we might find there's no man-made or artificial barrier that can't be removed, and maybe even rebuilt into a bridge or a bypass by skilled Iowa tradeswomen with the right tools and the right opportunities.
Good afternoon. I'm Brittany Clark, Senior Vice President at Cedar Rapids Bank and Trust. We are proud to sponsor the Iowa Women's Foundation's 24th Annual Luncheon. I'm honored to introduce the next speaker, Akwi Inji, an award-winning writer, speaker, and founder of The Hook. Akwi's wisdom and power has led her to collaborate with nationally renowned dancers, companies, and organizations to think differently about the power of story.
I was born in Iowa City, but pretty immediately after I was born, the three of us, my mom, my dad, and I, we moved to my dad's home country of Cameroon. It's on the west coast of Africa at the equator. My mom had no idea what she'd gotten into. When we arrived there, my dad handed my mom a list of 100 names and 100 phone numbers and said, if I go missing, start at the top and work your way down. It turns out he was deeply involved in politics when it was desperately dangerous to be so. In fact, he was proactively working to overthrow the government, directly and intimately helping someone run for president in a dictatorship. He even had to go into hiding at one point. As it turned out, my mom never had to use the list, but it was valuable information, had she needed it. Recognizing information as power runs in my blood. My dad earned his BA, his MA, and his PhD in really short order, in about the time it takes most people to earn their BA. He loves information. In his world, knowledge is power. This is true to a certain degree in my mom's world too. She's always loved books, and when she grew up on her family's farm in Springville, Iowa, she'd sometimes play hooky from school, feign illness, and close herself off in the farmhouse attic to read book after book after book after book. They offered entire worlds to her that she wanted to know more about and escape into. So, when she moved to Cameroon with my dad, it makes sense that she became a school teacher there and taught English to classrooms of hundreds of students. Also, when we were there, my younger sister was born. Now, it's important to know at this point that we were actually a really wealthy family in Cameroon. And because my younger sister and I were half American and light-skinned, we were seen as a commodity. We were also seen as white. I actually grew up in Cameroon thinking that I was white. And we would drive through a town or a village and word would spread, white man is here, white man is here, and this is what they would chant as they grew closer to the car. And before we knew it, swarms of people would surround our car to get a look at us. It was seriously like the paparazzi. Well, one time, they all got so close that the car crawled to a standstill. And I was so afraid of all the strange and excited faces peering into the car, I curled up into a ball in the back seat. And before my parents knew what was happening, my younger sister, now I was about 6 years old and she was 4 years old, well, she opened up her door, hopped out of the car, grabbed a stick from the ground, and started waving it all around. Leave my sister alone, leave my sister alone, leave my sister alone. She's still feisty as all get out. Now, a couple years after that, my mom made the difficult decision, mostly associated with the safety of my sister and me, to quite secretly pack up and leave everything behind, including my dad. And we moved to her parents' home in Springville, Iowa, from Africa to Springville. We'd left everything behind. And I went from being wealthy and white, so far as I was told, to poorer than dirt, and suddenly black. Definitely told I was black. based on what my peers and their parents in clear, destructive terms were communicating to me. The years in Springville were unkind to me, and I grew suicidal. Eventually, my mother understood that my sister and I needed to move to a community with more diversity. So, the summer before my 8th grade year, we moved to Cedar Rapids. I was thrilled. I would be going to McKinley Middle School. Go Bears! There would be other Black children at school. They would look like me. They would like me. Alas, it wasn't that easy. The white kids kept their distance because I was Black. The Black kids kept their distance because I was white. It didn't help that I was a swimmer because, as you may have heard, some folks have the notion that Black people either can't or don't swim. Now, a handful of kids eventually came around, and after some months, there were a couple boys and a few girls I could call friends. So, I was sitting in front of one of my friends who happened to be Black in Mrs. Doherty's math class. And I turned around to ask him a question about the worksheet that we were just handed. It was number 8. I remember it that clearly. And he was doodling instead of working on the homework. And I asked, "What are you drawing?" He said, "An X." "An X?" I asked. "Yeah, the Malcolm X X." "Who's Malcolm X?" I asked. His pencil stopped. He looked at me, and I knew in that moment I had just gotten less popular. I only had like 5 friends, so this was bad. By the end of the day, word got around that Akwi Inji didn't know who Malcolm X was. I was teased for months. Now, I was furious because instead of taunting and teasing me, this kid should have taught me. Think about it. They don't teach African American history in Africa. And in Springville, we spent like 10 minutes talking about slavery, and it was the longest 10 minutes of my life with everyone in the room staring at me, it seemed like. There was never a lecture or a lesson on the civil rights movement. Trust me, Black people actively involved in challenging the restrictions placed on them by their fellow Americans, that lesson was never taught. I would have remembered it. So, I found myself in 8th grade not knowing who Malcolm X was. And this was no fault of the devoted family members who worked together to raise me. Books were all around me. In fact, my mother worked hard to purchase a set of encyclopedias when we were little. I remember when a book would arrive one at a time from that set because that's how we could afford them. Each book in the set of encyclopedias would come in the mail wrapped in brown paper, and it was like Christmas because I knew my mother was doing something special for me. It took about 2 years, but we eventually ended up with a complete encyclopedia set. And I used them for various research projects for school, but none of the required topics had ever led me to anything close to the civil rights movement. And as we know, you don't know what you don't know. When I think back on that most embarrassing moment of my young life, that X, my question, his laughter, and the ignorance he and I both shared, I think about the difference between information and wisdom. Yeah, he had information, but not wisdom. Wisdom is the knowledge of what is true or right, coupled with just action. We tend to think that information is power. In our families, in our professions, on social media, we wield information, random bits of it like a sword, and we mistake it for wisdom. We flail that sword around very much in the same way my sister waved her stick around in the air, well-intentioned and utterly desperate. If I'd relied on the information others had provided me over the years about my own identity from Cameroon to Springville, would I be white? Would I be Black? Would I be? What we become ought to transcend the flailing sword of information, the socially constructed beliefs that affirm our biases. What we become ought to honor the power of wisdom, the ability to think and act using knowledge, experience, understanding, common sense, insight, and empathy. Wisdom, unlike information, isn't something that can be used as a flog. It finds its way to us in incremental experiences over time. Through bearing witness to one another, our stories and our struggles, it is delivered to our door, let's say, one book at a time, wrapped humbly, and with more answers than we realized we were looking for.
I'm Alicia Simmons, and I'm the Sustainability Manager at Frontier Co-op. We are honored to be a leader sponsor of this annual event and are proud to be a supporter of the Iowa Women's Foundation's work year-round. Today, it's my honor to introduce Liz Lenz. Liz is the author of The Belabored, A Vindication of the Rights of Pregnant Women, and Godland, and her writing has appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and elsewhere. Please join me in welcoming Liz Lenz.
My first writing job was for the college newspaper. It was my work study, and I rolled into the campus newspaper office hungry for a good story. And the editor put me in charge of their annual fraternity and sorority story. And I want to say, I had been homeschooled until high school. I had no idea what the Greek system was. I'd never seen Animal House. And my editor threw me in blind. I had to learn about the system as I reported. I talked to almost everyone who would talk to me, including university administration. And when I was done, it was a 2,000-word investigation into corruption and underage drinking and all kinds of shenanigans. The bad part? I only had 800 words. This was back when we only published in print. Actually paste out a typed up version of the story onto a paper layout. I had to cut a 2,000-word story that had taken me the first month of school to report into 800 words. What I learned by doing that was that if you want to say something, you just say it, and say it straight. Don't mess around, don't waste words. Don't use a $10 word when a 10-cent word will do. I think all too often, as nice Midwesterners and women, we talk around issues. We use 5 paragraphs to say what one word could do, and usually that word is no. That first writing lesson was one of saying what I needed to say as effectively as possible. I just had to say it. I had to be efficient, and efficiency is scary. It removes the protective guise of pretense. It forces you to be bold, to not waste anyone's time. The morning the paper came out, my story was front page. I walked into the college cafeteria and saw men, bigger, taller, and more popular than me, holding my words in their hands. One was even yelling, "Who does this Liz with a Y think she is?" I remember not being afraid, but being proud. I found a way to say something and say it with efficacy and force people to listen. That fall, a fraternity was suspended because of my reporting. 2 years later, because of a follow-up story, Rush was canceled.
I'm Katie Jensen with UFG Insurance, and as a proud sponsor of this year's event, it is my honor to introduce Justice Dana Oxley of Swisher. Justice Oxley is an adjunct professor at the University of Iowa College of Law and a school board member for Trinity Lutheran in Cedar Rapids. She's part of the Iowa, Lynn County, and 8th Circuit Bar Associations, serving as a former board member and president of the 8th Circuit. In January 2020, she was appointed to the Iowa Supreme Court. She's a married mother of 2, both born while she was in law school. And those with children can definitely attest that is a true testament to her resiliency. Please join me in welcoming Justice Oxley.
Thank you for that kind introduction. We have a row of Australian willow trees along our property line near Swisher, and during the derecho, not one of them came down, no limbs even snapped off. The hardwood trees along our pasture fence didn't fare as well, however. A number of them either snapped in half or at least lost their larger branches. The difference is resilience, the ability to bend but not break, to get knocked down but stand back up. That's what I think of when I think of resilience. I was born with a birth defect in my arms that makes some things more challenging, especially volleyball. I'm horrible at volleyball. But I've never really thought of my birth defect as a significant adversity that required resilience to overcome. I think that's because I was blessed with parents who never treated me differently. Probably more importantly, never expected less of or from me. I grew up on a farm and was expected to do my share of chores, which included carrying water buckets, stacking hay bales, and tending to the garden. I really can't remember any special accommodations my folks made for me. If I couldn't reach something in the cupboard, I climbed on the counter to reach it. They didn't get it for me. My parents encouraged me to take piano lessons and found a teacher who wrote music for me that emphasized the bass clef over the treble clef. Our farm truck was a stick shift, and I had to learn to drive it so I could help feed the cattle. I may have had to learn to do things differently, but if I wanted to get something done, I figured out a way to do it. I don't see my life as one of being especially resilient, but that can-do, figure it out or don't do it attitude that my parents instilled in me is probably what actually makes me resilient. That attitude carried me through the clickiness of a high school in a small town, moving to a large university where I didn't know anyone, and my first post-college job. As a credit union examiner, I sometimes had to tell boards of directors that their management or oversight of the credit union was deficient. Most of those boards consisted of older men who didn't appreciate receiving negative reports from a young woman, let alone one who looked like me. But I stood my ground, ignored their stares, and delivered the reports and demanded the corrective action they needed to take if they wanted to remain in good standing. It was that same can-do attitude that kept me from dropping out of law school before I even started. I found out I was pregnant a week after being accepted to law school and learned my first child was due 2 weeks before finals of my first semester. Everyone said the first semester wouldn't be so bad. All you had to do was spend the entire week of Thanksgiving break studying for finals. But my daughter Taylor was due the week before Thanksgiving, and she chose not to enter the world until the day after Thanksgiving. I was a bit busy during Thanksgiving week. So I could have called it quits when the reality of caring for a baby ran headlong into the daunting task of studying for finals. But I chose to use my situation as motivation to push through, balancing night feedings with studying torts and the rule against perpetuities. That's not to say it was always easy or pretty, because it wasn't. I had plenty of meltdowns and insecurities and resolutions to just quit. I took out my frustrations on my husband, who listened patiently and gently pushed me back out there. But it also taught me to appreciate the quiet moments of a sleeping baby and the pure joy of a baby's belly laugh. It helped me recognize the difference between what was really important and what might have only seemed so in the heat of the moment. What initially made me consider quitting law school actually helped me become much more disciplined and focused and grounded than I would have been otherwise. I attribute my success in law school to Taylor, who forced me not to procrastinate leading up to finals, but also opened my eyes to a world that was so much bigger than law school. And it was that same can-do attitude that gave me the nerve to even apply for a position as a justice on the Iowa Supreme Court, let alone convince the nominating commission to put me through and Governor Reynolds to appoint me to the Supreme Court. Serving as an appellate judge has long been a dream, and until last fall felt like it would always be just a dream. When an opening arose on the court after Chief Justice Cady's unexpected death, I set aside my own doubts and threw my hat in the ring. Instead of asking why would they choose me, I asked why not me. When I think of resilient people, I think of people like Helen Keller or Rosa Parks or Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Now those women showed resiliency in the face of adversity. But resiliency doesn't require huge obstacles. Resiliency faces us in our everyday lives and how we choose to respond to whatever obstacles we each face. Thomas Edison is coined with saying, "Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time." I've heard it said that success is failing 7 times, but trying 8. We all face obstacles that require us to decide whether we will let the obstacle break us or whether we will only let it bend us before we then snap back like a willow tree. The difference is our attitude, and whether we make the choice to try just one more time. That choice is wholly within our control, which means that power is wholly within our own control. As a closing thought, I ask you to consider this. It is your reaction to adversity, not the adversity itself, that identifies who you are.
Before we wrap up today's program with a performance from the talented Alicia Monet, I'd like to once again thank James Investment Group for their ongoing support. Earlier, I caught up with Lois and Jeremy to talk about what their sponsorship means to them.
Good morning, Lois and Jeremy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I sure wish it was in person, but with COVID and everything else we're dealing with, I guess we'll just do it the best way we can.
Good morning, Dawn. So good to see you.
Dawn. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I just wanted to say, first of all and foremost, thank you so much for your support of the Iowa Women's Foundation. This is going to be the 7th year that you have been our match sponsor. And because of that match, we have raised almost $250,000 for IWF's grant making. That is a lot of grants, and honestly, that's a lot of women and girls being impacted because of your generous support. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
That's wonderful. It's our pleasure to help. You do such great work.
Thanks.
Dawn, yes, I echo Jeremy. It is our pleasure. You know, women and girls have had a very different lived experience in the world. When my first job after college was for a small insurance company in Ames, and there were 4 men that worked there. They each had offices, and there were 20 or so women, and all of the women sat in desks right next to each other. They also had a dress code, and if it wasn't below 0, we were not allowed to wear slacks. And actually, one of my good friends at the company decided to challenge that, and she was fired. I didn't set out to be the boss or start James Investment Group, but I found that working for others, it was very difficult to do work in line with my values. I really wanted to help women learn to become economically self-sufficient. And so by becoming an investment advisor, that gave me the platform to do that. And then I found Iowa Women's Foundation, and by partnering with the Iowa Women's Foundation, I was able to have a much greater impact than I could have had by myself.
And we all know that there is gender disparity in the world. And now in this truly uncertain time with COVID, it seems like every day there's a new story or a statistic about elevated rates of domestic violence, food insecurity, or truly the impossible decision that families are making with regards to education and childcare. These issues impact everybody, but the impact on women and girls is even more pronounced. We know that our families, workplaces, and communities are stronger when everyone's voice is heard, when everyone's struggle is seen, and when we work together on solutions to even the playing field. And the work that you all do at Iowa Women's Foundation every day helps to make this a reality. And James Investment Group is truly honored to continue our support for you now more than ever, because we know our contributions will help to create a meaningful, positive change for women and girls in Iowa.
Wow. Thank you both so much. You know, as you said, Jeremy, it's together. I say it over and over again. It takes a team. It's not just one person. And so because of you, we couldn't have raised that $250,000, and we did, and we've been able to help a lot of people. So thank you so, so very much.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for all the hard work that you and everybody there at Iowa Women's Foundation does.
Thanks.
And I think that it speaks to the due diligence process that you go through. That's another reason I think both of us feel very comfortable donating the money to the Iowa Women's Foundation. We know the money's going to get spent in the right way to help as many people as possible.
Thank you both. We really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
As Lori mentioned, the James Investment Group has been our luncheon match sponsor for the last 6 years in a row, and now the 7th. They are helping to double the impact we make at the luncheon. It's both inspiring and humbling that during the course of a single lunch break, our supporters provide nearly 40% of the annual funds that go directly towards our grant-making efforts. That in a single moment, an action as simple as writing a check or filling out an online form can have such a tremendous impact on so many for so long. IWF was able to fund all the grantee partners that you learned about today because someone like you took action. You may even be one of those generous donors from last year who made this possible. Or maybe you're one of our Circle of Giving members whose ongoing annual contribution allows us to change lives, not only through grant making, but through research, education, advocacy, and collaboration. Or maybe this is your first IWF event or your first chance to pledge your support. No matter your giving history, join your fellow supporters and make a donation to the Iowa Women's Foundation here and now. Help us create a better future for Iowa's women and girls. If you received one of our pledge cards, simply fill in your information and send it back to us in the enclosed envelope. You can also make a secure online donation by going to iawf.org/donate or by clicking the donate icon in the live chat. With your generous contributions today, paired with James Investment Group's match, we can make a positive difference all across our state, from rural neighborhoods to urban centers, refugee communities, and more, all because you are willing to use your power to help others. It's no secret that you are the source of IWF's power. Your support allows us to do more and seek new partnerships, and it's enabled us to take our message and mission outside of the state and become a model for women's foundations everywhere. This year, Iowa was one of 9 locations selected by the Women's Funding Network to become a regional women's economic mobility hub. This bold new effort, funded by the Women's Funding Network in partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, will increase resources and support to advance the economic mobility of Iowa's women and girls at a time when joblessness, a lack of access to childcare, and financial uncertainty threatens the livelihood of families everywhere. The Iowa Women's Foundation was chosen to spearhead these regional efforts, and it was with great pride that we accept this new challenge. The investment into Iowa by large national funders highlights the vital nature of the work we're doing and will bring renewed national attention to women and girls in our state. As a part of our regional women's economic mobility hub work, we're expanding our Building Community Childcare Solutions Collaborative across our state. 2 years ago, IWF set out to tackle Iowa's growing childcare crisis. We'd done the research, talked to parents, childcare providers, and employers, and we knew there was no one strategy that could solve every childcare challenge in every community. So we created toolkits that outlined a variety of flexible solutions, and we put them in the hands of dedicated leaders in 30 different Iowa communities. Each of these leaders built a base of volunteers to help implement these strategies. Now, more than 650 members strong. Volunteers include teachers, parents, childcare professionals, employers, elected officials, and game-changing women and men. Together, they're using their combined power to explore which solutions work best for their communities and to share their progress with others. As a result of this collaboration, businesses are adding and expanding childcare benefits to employees. Communities are building new childcare centers and expanding existing ones. Childcare entrepreneurs are getting the support they need to run their businesses, and so much more. Our goal is ambitious but attainable. By November 2021, we want to bring building community childcare solutions to 10 additional towns across Iowa. 40+ communities will be working together to increase the availability of quality, affordable childcare, enabling more women access to economic security. After a year unlike any other, we know we will face many obstacles on the road ahead. So much of the good work accomplished during the last 2 years has been compromised or undone by the wide-reaching effects of the global pandemic. But Iowa women persevere. Today, building community childcare solutions is infused with a new energy and a sense of urgency. Our volunteers are working harder than ever before to recover the gains we've made and to go even further. In 2021, IWF will enter our 27th year fighting for Iowa's women and girls. But in so many ways, it feels like we're just getting started. Momentum is building, and with you at our side, we have the power to make Iowa a place where women and girls thrive. In the wise words of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. We could not agree more. Iowa women have long since earned their seat at the table of power. Together, let us keep fighting for equality and representation at all levels of government, in the C-suites of businesses, and in every realm of our lives. Let's ensure that women are the standard, not the exception, when it comes to who has the say, who has the right, and who has the power. Thank you for watching. And now, here is Alicia Monet singing Alicia Keys' Superwoman.
Nothing seems complete. I stand up and I'm searching for the better parts of me. I hang my head from sorrow, state of humanity. I wear it on my shoulder, gotta find the strength in me, 'cause I am a superwoman, yes I am, yes she is. Even when I'm a mess, I still put on a vest with an S on my chest, oh yes I'm a superwoman. For all the mothers fighting for better days to come, and all my women sitting here trying to come home before the sun, and all my sisters coming together saying yes I will, yes I can, 'cause I am a superwoman, yes I am, yes she is. Even when I'm a mess, I still put on a vest with an S on my chest, oh yes I'm a superwoman. When I'm I'm breaking down and I can't be found, 'cause I start to get weak, 'cause no one knows me underneath these clothes, 'cause I can't fly. We can fly, oh, 'cause I am a superwoman. Yes, I am. Yes, she is. Even when I'm a mess, I still put on a vest with an S on my chest. Oh, yes, I'm a superwoman.